quilting relevant in contemporary art? The essay topic that I've decided to take on board is one that is of great personal interest to me, as I myself have been a quilter for many years, having a background in fashion and also at present studying fine art painting at LSAD. So have been curious as to the idea of the two activities being combined and yet still being accepted by the art world, despite one of them having been considered as craft or women's work for such a long time. The image that I have here in the first slide is a quilt made by Cork quilter Mary Palmer in collaboration with Anne Kiley, a printmaker, in 2019. This quilt won Best in Show at the Festival of Quilt Show in Birmingham and was subsequently displayed at Crawford Art Gallery in 2022 as Work of the Week, having first been made specifically for their exhibition titled Earth, Wind and Fire, made in Cork Contemporary in 2018. This quilt certainly caught my attention at the time, as I have always been aware of the clear divide between craft and art, and it got me questioning if it was possible for me to eventually combine both skills in my practice and yet still be taken seriously by the art world. In the next few slides, I hope to show you how quilting has been and still is relevant to fine art and why it should be taken seriously as a vehicle of expression for the future. Okay, in slide number 2, I have included an image of people's cliched perception of what a quilter is versus an image of what a contemporary quilter is and can be today. The aim of this study is to expose the delegitimization of quilting and craft in general as an art form, and how it has been perceived to be inferior to fine art for many years, beginning way back during the 18th century, when the artist, with a capital A, was considered to be an almost godly, untouchable-like creature operating in splendid isolation from his studio, with craftwork reduced to being seen as lowly tradespeople's work or women's work. I would like to explore quilting as a historical, political and contemporary medium and evaluate how quilt-making traditions are influencing contemporary art today, why the art world is embracing craft, and how workmanship is key to today's visual arts, where high production values are becoming increasingly commonplace. In short, I would like to investigate how quilting as a medium has been and is very relevant and worthy in the art world at present. Okay, slide number 3. The first book I would like to examine is a recent book called Why We Quilt by Thomas Nauer, published in 2019. This book is a tribute to today's vibrant quilting community and features an array of quilt examples from a wide range of contemporary quilters. It features clear and colourful images of quilts, accompanied by testimonials about what inspires the makers and imbues their craft with meaning. It features a rich history of individuals and communities using fabric and thread to connect to others and express themselves both personally and politically. It blends bits of this history with the stories and work of today's leading quilters, highlighting themes of tradition, community, consumerism, change and creativity. And I believe it will be relevant to my project, as it gives clear and concise insights as to why artists would choose to use quilting as a medium to relay their messages to the world in this present day. Slide number 4. The next book that I would like to use for research is one titled Women's Work, From Feminine Arts to Feminine Art, and was published very recently in 2022, written by a lady called Fern Gibson. This lady is an art historian, writer and presenter. She is also the producer of the Art Matters podcast, and I believe that she is a very valid reference to use in my essay, as she has such an in-depth knowledge of the area. The book claims to be a celebration of innovative, brilliant artists reclaiming the idea of women's work, and provides numerous examples of women who choose to express themselves through the medium of fibres, which is also, of course, including the craft world and the craft of quilting as an art form. She says that in the history of Western art, decorative and applied arts have been separated from the high arts of painting and sculpture and deemed to be more suitable for women. Artists have begun to reclaim and redefine these materials and methods, energizing them with expressions of identity and imagination. This fact is of course relevant to my essay, as I would like to prove that arts traditionally seen as women's work are indeed worthy of celebration as a powerful medium of art. Number 5. In this slide, I would like to look at another fairly recent publication called Unraveling Women's Art, and it's written by P.L. Henderson from 2021. This female author is an art historian and freelance writer whose research into the subject of women artists led to her creation of the successful and ongoing media project at Women's Art One on Twitter, and also the Women's Art blog to platform the work of women artists. The author unpicks the threads that link female textile artists and the arts they produce. It has some very informative chapters which refer to representations in textile arts, textile art and identity and politics, and textile arts. Also, quite a few interesting interviews with currently active textile artists which discuss their personal motivation for creating contemporary art and also gives insight into their practices and themes. I feel that although this book doesn't contain much reference to quilting as such, it still provides a good overview of female-centric textiles and art production and information as to how women's arts and crafts have moved from the back room into the gallery showroom. Slide number 6. The first image I have chosen is a photograph called Sewing a Quilt, Gee's Bend, Alabama, which features a young girl assisting a black African quilter called Jarena Pettiway back in 1937. Black women in Gee's Bend, Alabama have been making quilts from the remnants of discarded fabric since the 19th century, with patterns and techniques having been handed down from generation to generation from a time when women were enslaved labourers producing the quilts out of necessity for domestic use, up to today when the quilts are purchased and preserved as valuable works of art. The patterns on the quilts display an aesthetic richness that draws on influences from West Africa, Indigenous America and Europe, and the results have a quality which makes them uniquely American. Spurred on by Martin Luther King Jr.'s visit in the 1960s, the community members have become active in the civil rights movement. The women came together to found the Freedom Quilting Bee, a workers' cooperative that provided much needed economic opportunity and political empowerment, and are still active today. Their work has been hailed by the New York Times as some of the most miraculous works of modern art America has ever produced, and also that they were equal to anything produced by Klee or Matisse. In 2002, a collector who specialised in black vernacular art mounted an exhibition of these quilts at the Houston Museum of Fine Arts, which went on to 11 other cities because it was so popular, and today they are considered to be so crucial a chapter in the history of American art that they are in the permanent collection of over 30 leading art museums. Slide number 7. The image that I have included here is of an arpillera. These quilts serve to document and denounce oppression in Chile, while all the other normal channels of expression were closed. Between 1973 and 1990, women living in Chile under the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet made small fabric pictures called arpilleras that depicted their life under the regime. These arpilleras depicted food shortages, government brutality, unemployment, and also told the stories of their missing and murdered family members. The scraps used for the quilts were often pieces of the missing people's clothing, and these women were often referred to as the mothers of the disappeared. And for these ladies, making the arpilleras was a way of sharing their sorrows and concerns. The Chilean government eventually realised the significance of these quilts after previously writing them off as just women's work, and eventually began to denounce and confiscate them. In the end, After hiding them in their coats, skirts and bedding, these women were able to have the items smuggled out of the country to tell the world of the Chileans people's plight, and in some cases were even used as part of testimonies in front of Amnesty International's truth commissions and helped them build pressure to bring down Pinochet. I believe that these art pilares are still relevant today because the Tower Museum in Derry in Northern Ireland has acquired a permanent collection of these art pilares, and workshops are taught there to local women in the hope that they will be able to highlight their own current social issues and express their emotions in a healthy and peaceful manner. Slide 8. This features a quilt made by Bisa Butler entitled I Am Not Your Negro, and it's from 2019. Bisa Butler is a current contemporary artist who uses quilting as her main form of expression and is said to use her fabric just like paint. Her interdisciplinary methods, which creates quilts that just look like paintings, have catapulted quilting into the field of fine art recently, and she is known for her quilted portraits celebrating Black life, and portrays both everyday figures and notable historical figures, and communicates not only the subject's appearance, but also the deeper layers of their life experiences and identities, telling stories that may have been forgotten over time. In 2019, the Art Institute of Chicago acquired a work titled The Safety Patrol, and in 2020 hosted the first Bisa Butler solo exhibition, and also in that year her quilted portrait of Wangar Maathai, an environmental and women's rights activist, also the first woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize, was selected to be Time magazine cover for a special issue honouring 100 women of the year. Bisa is of significant interest to me, considering the fact that her formal art education was as a painter at Howard University, and she's managed to merge the worlds of fine art and quilting together seamlessly. Okay, slide number 9. Slide number 9 features an image of a girl called Tal Fitzpatrick, featured with a group of banners created by her Craftivist group at the Museum of Australian Democracy's Changemaker exhibition in 2022. I believe that this study is relevant to the art world today because as a quilter and painter myself, I would like to incorporate my craft skills into my practice, but I'm continually meeting with a form of resistance and hesitation, and I would like to understand and explain how contemporary quilters are working harmoniously with the contemporary fine art world of today. Craft versus art has always been a contentious topic, but it is even more so of late as various groups have adopted this medium as a means of expressing themselves, and even as a protest medium. The queering community in particular has taken craft and flipped it from being seen as rather uncool and made it trendy again, giving it a radical dimension. Also, the feminist community are embracing craft wholeheartedly, resurrecting women's work and decorative art as a viable artistic means to express female experience, thereby pointing to its political and subversive potential. We have also seen the rise of a new form of activism known as craftivism, which is described as being about raising consciousness, creating a better world stitch by stitch, and sharing ideas with others in a way that is welcoming, not dividing, and celebrating traditional skills in new ways. It is also about creating wider conversations about uncomfortable social issues, and a craftivist is anyone who uses their craft to help the greater good or in resistance to a greater societal ill. The fact alone that the craft industry is worth an estimated $35 billion is enough evidence that this area needs closer inspection as to its role within the art world, and I hope to prove its relevance with a thorough investigation as to why it is worthy. Okay, it's slide number 10. This is just an outline of what I would like to do over the next few days, or a few weeks. The first week, I would like to begin with the history of quilting and Gee's Bend quilters and write 1,000 words. The second week, I'll move on to art pilares and political uses, roughly 700 words.